War Eagle Auburn family, welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, and it's Auburn Family News discussion time here, broadcasting live on YouTube and on Twitter and Periscope as well. I appreciate you joining me today, whether you're watching live or on the replay. It's always fun to be here and interact with all our Auburn family members. My name is Kyle. I am the editor and the owner of the E2C Network, which is a family of podcasts that cover Auburn things, all kinds of Auburn things. Auburn sports heavy, obviously, which is obviously the main point of our discussions here on YouTube normally. But also we talk about anything Auburn, anything orange and blue, we talk about it here. And we hope that you'll participate in the conversation today. As I said, this is a live broadcast, so it's always more fun to interact with those of you that are here right now. I see a couple of familiar faces popping in on both the different formats here. So as you come in, give me a War Eagle, hello, whatever you'd like to just let me know that you're here, just so I know who I'm talking to today. And as we go throughout the stream today, I do appreciate you dropping comments and questions. Comments and questions to let me know what's on your mind today and what you think about what we're talking about. I'll say hello to a couple people already. Chandler Fullman is on Twitter right now, and he says, "Hey, I'm interacting." Yes, you sarcastic son of a gun. David Hunt on YouTube. Good morning to you, sir. Gregory Lawrence, War Eagle. A couple of things you guys can do for me. We always cover this stuff at the beginning, and I know some of it annoys you, but we have to just because it's the way we do things here. As you come in, please do consider smashing that like button if you're enjoying what you're watching. If you're not, I understand. The retweet button obviously helps as well on Twitter. That does help push the stream out to other people so they know we're live, because most people are subscribed, I think. Well, not most people. Most of the regulars are subscribed and have the notification bell marked. But some of them forget to do that, and they won't know if we're live if you don't help them out sometimes. So that's the best way to do that. And I see a bunch of you are already doing that on both platforms, so thank you very much. Our topics today are anything Auburn, obviously, but obviously I've got in the title here, more Auburn football coaches coming back to coach, or former players coming back to coach. There's also basketball that's pretty hot right now with Sharif Cooper. Softball is getting started. So there's a lot of different topics that we can cover. I'm sure we'll spend a lot of time on football and the coaches that are still yet to be named for Coach Brian Harson's staff. But we'll get into all that here. A couple of things to remind you of before we get started, before every show, is ways that you can help support us. And for the YouTube folks, they asked to start using some graphics and stuff like that. So you Twitter folks can't see it. But these are ways that you can help support our podcast here, obviously, by listening to them. Subscribe on Apple Podcast if you are an Apple user, or you can use any other podcast app out there. If it's not available on yours of choice, please let me know, and I will try my best to get it out there for you. I put the Apple Podcast link for you in the comments on YouTube. And also, for those of you on YouTube as well, there's a link there for our Booster Club, which we've had some people sign up for recently. Thank you all so much for checking that out. For as little as $1 a month, you could help support the content that we do here by signing up there and getting yourself some perks. Some pretty cool stuff over there, so you might want to join. So some other people have checked it out. Hopefully you'll stay here for this live stream, but check it out when you get some time. We'll remind you throughout the show as it comes up naturally. So those are the main things that I have for you today as we get the show started. What's on your mind? Who's excited about Tracy Rocker coming home? Anybody? Bueller? Who is excited about Tracy Rocker? I honestly did not expect that one to take place, that hire, but I was pleasantly surprised by the fact that Tracy Rocker is coming home, and I was very happy to see that take place because one of my favorite, former Auburn players in terms of being a legend and stuff like that. It was just a nice thing to have happen. Didn't expect that. When you have a coach leave Auburn, even in an assistant role, sometimes it kind of feels like that's the final time, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that's the case, but to me, sometimes it feels like it. It does. So it was nice to see that actually come to fruition. Salt Army says Rocker was a surprise. I agree. And Felix Gonzalez is here, says War Eagle. I'm guessing you got it figured out why you couldn't comment on the live stream, but it's good to see you here. There's no way Cooper is staying after this year. I hate one and done. So, Amy, can I pose this question to you, or this thought process at least? Maybe not question. Maybe a thought process and a question. Is that such a bad thing? Because if Auburn is producing one and dones, that means that the players that are potentially going to be one and dones want to come to Auburn, which means Auburn is having success. If Auburn is having success, that means that they're obviously winning, going to the tournament, making big runs in the tournament. Players want to come there. So it's kind of one of those things. Yeah, it sucks a little bit, but isn't that what you want? That's the conundrum that comes with success. Let's see. I'm going to back up here. I missed a couple. War Eagle, if this b-ball team all stay for the next year and bring 5-star power forward and 4-star point guard, do you see them being a Final Four team? Anything's possible. I don't know that you will have everybody from this team together at the end of this year. I don't feel very confident in that. And that's not even the commentary on Sharif Cooper. It's going to get crowded real quick. I mean, think about it. We're already struggling to find time for some very talented players as it is, and you're going to put Jabari Smith, Trey Alexander, I think his name is, and then probably whoever else comes in. Whew. So somebody's going to need to go somewhere to find some time. Somebody's going to need to go somewhere. That was the most uninformative phrase ever. Auburn fancies will become the next Kentucky. Irrelevant in football and good in basketball? Touche. We're not going to be irrelevant in football. But yes, I do think that we have the potential to be Kentucky level in basketball if we want to be. And it seems like we're heading that way. I'm good with Rocker, my number one choice if we didn't keep Garner. So here's the thing with Rodney Garner. I would have loved to see him stay. He was a great recruiter and a great coach. We haven't seen a coach like Rodney Garner who could recruit but also coach him up in such a good combo in such a long time. Tracy Rocker, while being a pretty decent recruiter, is probably not to the level of a Rodney Garner in terms of just sheer numbers and what type of stars they're bringing in and stuff like that. But he's, I think, my opinion, outside looking in, a better coach, personally. And I don't mean like better as in Rodney Garner was bad, because did you see the things that Rodney Garner was putting in the NFL? One Derek Brown, Marlon Davidson, many others. I mean, the dude can coach as well. But I think about what Tracy Rocker did with Nick Fairley. Turned a JUCO guy who, the JUCO guys always find success when they come back. But not to the level of Nick Fairley, becoming the best defensive player in 1 year under his tutelage. Well, 2 years he was here, but 1 year, one season is when he kind of took off. So I think that's what you're getting, is that the recruiting side of things is so strong already that we needed a guy focus on coaching and everybody's favorite word, development. It's like a cuss word to me at this point. So yes. Let's see. I'm certainly glad to have Tracy Rocker back where he belongs, just fearing we won't have the recruiting effect. He won't have the recruiting effect and impact of Coach G. And that's kind of what we just talked about. Yeah. So, but I think that's why we felt comfortable bringing in Tracy Rocker, is because you are supposedly bringing in such good recruiters everywhere else. And if they keep Coach T. Will, which is still up in the air at this point, I think you're going to be pretty solid at recruiting on the defensive side. Let's see. Cooper. If Cooper isn't a top pick, somebody is slipping. Yeah, I think he obviously shows he's worthy of consideration for any top pick or NBA draft type of situation. I hope we can find a way to convince that man to stick around for one more year. Because like someone alluded to earlier, it could be a very, very interesting run if they're able to pull that off. I don't know that that's going to happen. A lot of things in motion. But, yeah, it could be. Josh was here, War Eagle Man. Juice. I called the Rocker hire last week, jokingly, so you actually didn't think it was going to happen. I think if you go back on live streams, not that you want to take the time to do that, but if you go back to live streams previous, the past week or so, we brought up Tracy Rocker, and I believe I even said, I don't really see that happening. But as I've told you, and it's always, I feel like it's inconvenient for me because it's very easy for me to get on here and say this type of thing, that I started getting information that was a reality over the last 2 days while we weren't able to live stream. I did, and I was like, doggone, I'm going to get on here and say this, and it's going to sound like I'm just saying it just to sound right. But I legitimately, from my source, that other cuss word that everybody likes, well, not everybody likes, but it's just the one everybody uses, I have a source. But my source told me Tracy Rocker's coming home. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to look like an idiot. Felix, so what's the hot topic today? Really, it's kind of quiet, isn't it? After the Tracy Rocker hire, the T-Will push to keep him has slowed down a little bit in enthusiasm, not slowed down in people wishing for it. Everybody wants it, but I think that slowed a little bit. So it really, as you start winding down this coaching searches for all the different positions, I think people's minds and eyes are starting to look more towards recruiting as they are the coaches, because now what you have left is special teams, defensive. We got defensive line now, wide receivers, and a linebacker position. And we'll talk about maybe who's coming back for those shortly. Spooky War Eagle missing the play and's got a blizzard here in Iowa. Ooh, man, that is tough. Speaking of blizzards, we just celebrated the anniversary of the 2010 national championship, and Auburn experienced somewhat of it wasn't a blizzard, but it was an ice storm the day of the championship. I was there on campus. I was a student. I remember that day very well. Crazy. It's one of those times in your life that if you were a part of it in Auburn, or maybe even in Arizona, you'll never forget it, but especially in Auburn, just the buzz around the campus. I remember I couldn't sit still. Like, I woke up that morning of the game day, because luckily I didn't have to work. They canceled school because of the ice storm that had happened there conveniently. And I'll just remember always, like, nobody wanted to do anything except just kind of mill around. And we weren't even being late. Like, we were so restless too. We didn't know what to do with ourselves, because we were about to play in a national championship game for the first time in almost 50 years. And it was just incredible. So you got me going with the whole blizzard story there, but yeah. Hillbilly, what's up, man? Good to see you. I think Cooper will stay more than 1 year, needs to improve his strength. And I think that's a great point, Hillbilly. I think Cooper could potentially be convinced too, if we could kind of show him and say, and not listen when I say this, I am not trying to doubt on my man Jared Harper, because the dude's a beast. But I think he could have used some bulking up to go to the NBA and be a little bit more successful. He's successful when he's there. I think his size is what kind of hurts him a little bit. So I think if we can show him the Jared Harper tape and said, look what we did with Jared Harper during his time here, and if he had stayed one more year, shown he could do this again, gotten a little bit bigger and stronger, he wouldn't be doing the whole two-way contract stuff that he's got going on right now. He splits double teams better than anyone I've seen. I agree. He's masterful with the way he moves the ball. It's so refreshing too to have a highly touted recruit, because stars don't mean jack squat. They're speculation at best. But to see a 5-star actually be a 5-star is really interesting here. Salt Army says Brian Harsin is low-key building a all-star staff. I think it's a little premature to say all-star staff, but a solid one it seems to be. I will agree with you that. But I would say, and I think that's what you mean by low-key. Like, people are not anticipating this, but the proof will be in the pudding. If they bring in the recruits and develop them and get the wins, there's not going to be anyone that can argue with you on that. But right now, it's a little bit of a step out. Isaac says, I do think Cooper is not developed as a young shooter. Do not think Cooper's developed enough yet as a shooter. He makes a lot of freshman mistakes as well. I think it would be benefit him to stay. We can, and I think that's another great point. I think we can voice those opinions all we want, but it really amounts to, what does Sharif Cooper think? I don't know. What's the hold up on the wide receiver and outside linebacker coach being named? We'll get into it. Let me catch up on comments and we'll get into that, because the title of this stream was, are more Auburn players coming to coach? And by the way, I just saw someone hit the like button. Please remember, there's a lot of you watching here. If you are enjoying what you're watching, please do consider hitting that like button, because it does help the stream out. And we are getting a little late. It started a little later than I normally would today. A lot going on on my end down here. Appreciate it. Saw a lot of y'all do that. John, War Eagle, and good morning to you. Well, it's not morning anymore for me. I don't know where morning is for you. What's the word on wide receiver coaching? We'll jump on that in just a second. Has anyone heard anything about Burns? I know you're a fan, but no. I'm glad you know that about me, though, that I am a huge Cody Burns fan. You will not find many other Auburn stories that are the quintessential Auburn story other than Cody Burns. And I think for me, who looks for value outside of what they actually do on the field, Cody Burns is going to be one of those top candidates you always think of in Auburn men and women. We'll get to that in a little bit here. Any word on T. Will? Everybody's wanting me to get to that here. Linebacker coach. The linebacker coach we hired was an inside linebacker. Yes, he was. Maybe keep him for outside. That's a potential. Keeping players involved, making a culture where players here see the value of the team over the individual. Yeah, that's always the trick, right? You've got to balance them wanting their own personal aspirations versus seeing that as a team. Felix thinks it's going to be an awesome year. Isaac thinks that Rocker is a superior coach to our previous, meaning Rodney Garner. In terms of coach, do you mean holistically? Because holistically, I think Rodney Garner still is probably has beat him to the punch on that because he could recruit and develop players. Tracy, he could recruit. He recruited like kind of dark horses like Nick Fairley and turned him into something. So that's, it's kind of one of those things that's a hard comparison in my view, but I don't know. Byron Cowart interview said he never learned how to watch film under Rodney with all his physical tools. That man should have worked out. Well, Byron Cowart did work out at Maryland, and now he's in the NFL and the Patriots, I believe. So it did work out. And here, okay, let me, and I know y'all want to get to coaches discussion here stuff, but let me kind of take a step back here and address something. Because I've had some people kind of make some comments about some of my commentary, especially after the show. And it's always fun to see the people that choose, and Kyle, be quiet. You usually get more of the negative stuff after the fact when they're not here, they're not in front of you kind of thing live, which is always interesting to me. But I made some commentary about some commentary that King Dunlap, apparently a former Auburn player, said about Coach Malzahn and them not running the ones versus the ones and stuff like that. And then I think people misinterpreted what I said and kind of tried to twist it a little bit. And I was not saying that King Dunlap was lying about that, but I said I would take what you hear from former players with a grain of salt. And I always operate off of the notion where there's smoke, there's fire, but to what degree? So that's what I'll just kind of say on that. And I said that for a reason here. Good Lord, what was the reason? It was something to do with Rodney Garner. Oh, and the Byron Cowart situation with him saying that he never learned how to watch film. Maybe you were offered the opportunity to, but you didn't take advantage of it like everybody else. I don't know. That's just me with what information I have looking into something and kind of just speculating on it. So that's not a commentary on if that actually happened. It's the same thing as him making commentary during his little window of exposure there, because his experience may not have been the experience of others. Ask Marlon Davidson and Derek Brown. I was at the national championship during that. My business was closed for the ice, so I got to see the game. Weren't we all so lucky? In 2010, hell froze over. Tuscaloosa froze. Cooper is dominant. Harper wasn't the facilitator. Cooper is. I disagree with that, Lee. Harper was a very good facilitator, so much to the point where he could finally do the things that he personally did so much better than others, like make three-pointers from back in the next county line. I think because that team was so good together, you lose sight sometimes of the individual talents of the other, and Harper was a great facilitator. Is Cooper better? 2 games might be, especially with those alley-oops we've seen, but that's 2 games. Solid staff with Mason and Bobo. My grades for most hires: Brian A-, Bobo B-, Mason A, Wilfred B-, Tracy Rocker B. So it seems like you got a pretty good grade all across the board for staff. That averages out maybe to a, trying to do math here is tough. Maybe like a B+ so far. Seems like you're pretty satisfied with it. Wilfred offering a lot of offensive linemen. So that's going to be the ticket, right? Was his hire worth it in terms of recruiting? It might be. That opinion is partially coming from the War Report, but I thought it was a good point. The War Report, that must be a new podcast or something that I'm not aware of. I'm not really sure exactly who that is. Anyone excited about Gunner is what you meant. Stockton, maybe a chance coming to AU. Yeah, it seems to be trending that way, doesn't it? And when you hire the guy who brought him to his last school, it kind of makes sense that you would go that route, doesn't it? Will it happen actually? Again, just cool the jets a little bit, but there's reason to be excited. But don't set yourself up for disappointment. You're gonna have to move faster. We need to type a little slower. Well, so Hillbilly, I think that's the appeal of the show, is that I do my best to get everybody's comments in here while we as we continue to grow. By the way, y'all are incredible. We broke 760 subscribers recently, and that's all to you guys for liking these videos, for being here, for hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell. Thanks to you guys. So that's what I try to do here, is balance my commentary with letting you have your voice heard as well. And that's what our network's all about. It's about Auburn Family getting together and talking about the things they want to. And while I am sitting here in front of the microphone, in essence speaking for you in some way, at least you're getting your opinions out there as well. So doing my best. But I want everybody to feel like they can be heard and feel welcome here. Even if you're wrong, Hillbilly. I'm kidding. Let's see. For those of you that don't know, Hillbilly and I have developed quite the relationship over here. He's a pretty cool. I don't even know him, but he's lady or dude. he's pretty awesome. I think they need to keep T. Will, not the best coach, but one good recruiter. Yes, he is both of those things. Actually, he's a good coach. I'm always interested to hear when someone makes the statement, I think they're a great recruiter but not a great coach, or I think they're not a great coach but not a great recruiter. It's a very easy statement to make. I think you've got to use some points to validate that. For me, he's a great recruiter because of who he's brought to Auburn. Owen Papo, KJ Britt, many other great linebackers. I mean, Chandler Wooten, who's coming back. So many great linebackers he's brought in. And then look at who he's turned into. Better linebackers. Deshaun Davis came into his senior year in high school, had an injury, couldn't even play, as a 3-star linebacker, brought in and became the best linebacker in the SEC, or one of them. So I would say that he's a pretty good coach too. When it comes to Davidson and Brown, I feel like those guys were superhumanly physical, especially Brown. Not saying you didn't have a great work ethic as well, though. Yeah, so I think that's obviously something you take in consideration. Somebody can be quite the specimen, and that can kind of overcome any coaching deficiencies if they're there. But there's still got to be coaching. We've seen great talent not work. Byron Cowart is the perfect example there. Either it's bad coaching or poor work ethic, one of the two. Because if you're that good of a talent to make it somewhere else, then go on to the pros. It's got to be one or the other. Sharif's more talented, less developed than Jared Harper. He could be more talented. He might look that way now. But yes, I somewhat agree with that statement. Passing IQ, yes, he has a very good passing IQ. You're a big fan of Harper. I like Harper, but Cooper has more Chris Paul to his game, and he can dominate the game without scoring. I think Harper's game was based on the 3, but I agree to disagree. I don't think Harper's game was based on the 3. I think it was maximized. His ability for the 3 was maximized by the other things he did. Going to the free throw line, knocking those down. He was great at drawing fouls. I looked at that as the crux of his game more than the 3 points. Those were like the icing on the cake. That, to me, is a good point guard, which is why Sharif looks so good to me. He's good at going to the basket, drawing some fouls, and making your free throws. I'm his favorite in chat. You're all my favorite in chat. If we get Gunner, our 2020 QB room will be stacked. I agree. Let's see. I go by linebacker play this year. So you're going by linebacker play this year with a lot of injuries and in a weird year. If I wouldn't go off of 1 year as an assessment of T-Will. Everybody has a down year, and I don't even think this was a down year. Who is Gunter? Yeah, I don't know if you're being funny, but Gunner Stockton, the quarterback for 2022. Sharif is more talented from the get-go. However, Harper developed into a better player than Cooper is right now. Sharif has a higher ceiling. But the notion of a higher ceiling is you got to get there, right? Well, hopefully you never reach the ceiling, but you got to go towards the top of the ceiling. So we'll see if he does that. T-Will's a great coach, not just recruiter. Yes, Amy, I do agree with that. Aaron Moorhead to Auburn. TP, I don't know who that is, so you're going to have to let me know. I come on here and give my commentary, and I do have a lot of information, but sometimes I don't have it, and I don't know anything about that one. I don't know much about the new 4-star quarterback we have coming in. What are your initial thoughts? All right, so we're going to talk about that, and then let's talk about coaches. You can keep your comments and questions coming, and we'll work them in as best we can, but I know people are like, talk about the coaches. If you're talking about Demetrius Davis, and I'm assuming that's who you're talking about, the 4-star that's coming out of Texas. We've had a lot of discussions on here about them, and a lot of them have been in relation to sitting Bo Nix in favor of him. And I've cautioned people, don't focus on the tape from high school. Everybody's high school tape who's a 4-star looks good because that's their best moments. And they may be incredible. So my take on it is he looks good. I'm glad we have him. But will he amount to the same thing as anybody? But I would just be very cautious about that because there's a lot of people that want Bo Nix sat, and I understand that. But we talk a lot on here about emotion. Here we go, emotions versus context, and they meet somewhere in to form the reality. Both those things are important, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're both. You have to put as much weight in one or the other. So the emotions of the situation is that Bo Nix sucks, and that's not me saying that. That's other people saying that. The context is he has a terrible offensive line, has had to run for his life, and has not had the chance to develop, especially in game, the way that people want him to. So I say that to answer your question that I'm excited for Demetrius Davis because competition, if he as good as advertised, competition always makes everybody better. That will either make Bo better, or it will make Demetrius better to beat out Bo Nix and Leo Garnett and who else is there? Is Grant Lloyd done? I can't remember. I can't even remember his name now. The other one, the baseball player. Oh gosh, the other quarterback. Anyway, he's gone now. The 24-year-old. But yes, I would say that think about it in that context. That you need to make sure that you're kind of putting it in its place. It's great to be excited about it. Doesn't mean it's necessarily going to pan out. They're a great YouTube channel. Honestly, I do my best to keep up with what few podcasts that I listen to because I manage about, at some points, 8 different podcasts on our network. And I do a YouTube channel as well outside of this that's not even related to this. So I have no time to watch anybody else's thing, but there you go. So if anybody else wants to go check them out, I have no problem with sharing that about people. He's a bad dude. Aaron Moorhead, Eagles wide receiver coach. Peterson just got fired, coach with Mason at Stanford and Vandy. Oh, that's a good connection then. So that, you can obviously make the lines or draw the lines to connections and stuff like that. But connections don't necessarily mean that they're going to mesh well with Coach Harson's vision. And, okay, let me do that. I know a lot of y'all are talking about the Bo Nix, Demetrius Davis conversation. I'll come back to that as I work back through the comments. Let me tell you this. My title for this live stream was, are more Auburn football coaches coming back? Obviously, it's a very leading title. That's what media people do, right? They get you to click. Pulling the curtain back here a little bit. I have on very good authority that Damian Craig was in Auburn 2 nights ago, if not 1 night ago. Within this week, Damian Craig was in Auburn. Now you say to yourself, well, he's from Auburn. I mean, he, played at Auburn. He's got multiple reasons to come back to Auburn. But do you come back to Auburn during a coaching search with a wide receiver vacancy? You might. You just might. So I don't want to sit here and make a prediction that Damian Craig is our next wide receiver coach because I think, if true, and I believe it is based off the person that told me that has had solid information thus far that Damian Craig was in Auburn. I believe it to be true. So I do think that Damian's most likely interviewed / had a conversation with the coaching staff about joining them at wide receiver, which I think would get people so excited. And because if you go back to previous live streams, we talked about Damian Craig coming back, and I said, maybe, but I just don't see it happening. Here I am again, potentially being wrong. And that's the whole process here that we work through, and discussing things and kind of speculating about them. Sometimes things seem to make sense, sometimes they don't. So does it look like Damian Craig is in the running for wide receiver coach? Yes. At this point, on this day, during this live stream, is he potentially the guy? I don't know that. That's the last I've heard of it outside of that. But the fact that he was in Auburn during a coaching search for wide receivers, that looks pretty good to me. But the Aaron Moorhead connections look great. It makes a lot of sense, and maybe he will get an interview. But I haven't heard anything from my source on that one. Right now, wide receivers, I think it was Darrell Wyatt from UCF, Damian Craig, and then, on a wild hair, there's that opportunity for Cody Burns to be retained. As much as I want him there, I would say that's not going to happen. Of course, I said that about Tracy Rocker, and I was wrong. But this is the whole Cody Burns situation is just me speculating. I haven't heard one way or the other on that. Linebacker situation. And I know I'm getting way behind in chat, and we'll work our way back through. I said, since we haven't live streamed in 2 days, that I was starting to feel a little bit more confident about T. Will. Now I'm kind of starting to swing back the other way. I'm literally done this the entire time during this coaching search. I was pushing a lot for him to be promoted defensive coordinator. Obviously I think we may have made a solid choice there. So I kind of concede my desires to that. Outside linebackers is an option. Does T. Will want to stay though? I would assume, there's, even if you paid attention to his Twitter account, he's changed it, some things. And I looked at the things that he changed on there because somebody did a comparison for me. I'm like, that doesn't indicate that's not an indication of anything. But there's coincidences that line up. I know he's in the running. I just don't know what's taking so long. It could be a T. Will decision. It could be a coach decision, a Coach Harsin situation. But now I've kind of started to lean back to the longer this goes, the less likely T. Will stays. But I'm still hopeful, and I want that to happen. So that's kind of where we are. Special teams, Larry Porter, our current special teams coach, at one point looked like the smart choice to keep around, but I haven't heard too much other way. A couple streams ago, I gave you one guy on the list, and I can't remember who it was. That's how unexcited I was for. I think it was the Virginia special teams coach. Current one, but we'll see. All right, let me work back through here. I know we were behind. I think talking about Demetrius, he recorded in high school was 53-3 with something crazy. Says more about the team than an individual, though. That's a great point, Lee. Aaron coach with Sumlin at A&M. I think Bo Nix has a ceiling, and we have seen it. Time to move on. Just an opinion. Don't grill me. Oh, I'm going to grill you, and we'll grill you just right. No, I don't think we've seen Bo Nix's ceiling. What we have seen is his basement, and it's hard to get out of the basement when your line won't open the door for you. Did you like that analogy? Kind of proud of that one. Competition used to make everyone better. Now it just makes everyone transfer. That's a fair point. I think it depends on the individual, though. I think what you saw in Bo Nix in that bowl game, competition or the prospect of losing your job, makes him work harder. I like that in the guy. Sandberg, that's who it was. Thank you, guys. Couldn't remember. Slowly getting very excited about Brian. He seems to be a great, pure, hard-nosed coach. It does look like that on the surface, and that's great and all. But as we've learned from the Auburn family the last couple, you can be this person, you can be this type of coach, that type of coach, this type of person, that type of person. It doesn't matter. What matters is your win record. Talking on the topic of coaching, where do you think we'll be most efficient and deficient from a coaching standpoint in the coming season? Efficient? Most efficient would probably be... Well, that's a great question. I haven't even really thought about that. Efficient might be linebackers. Even with the new coach, the inside linebacker guy coming in, and if we can keep T. Will, I think we'll be very efficient there. Deficient? Y'all gonna hate me for this. Wide receivers. We got a lot of talent, but it's a lot of unproven talent. And that, we kind of, and let me kind of almost hurt my statement there by saying I felt that way the year before Seth Williams and Anthony Schwartz came in, and look what they became. So I'm probably going to be proven wrong on that, but that's kind of my feeling on this right now. Deficient wide receivers. When you lose Seth Williams, Anthony Schwartz, Elijah Stove, all in one swoop, that's a lot of big shoes to fill. This isn't basketball. You don't retool that quickly. I get what you're saying, but even when he had a pocket clean, his feet still move like Jeremy Johnson, big recruit, but could never set his feet. So here, let me help you understand something, Skinny Boy. I think we've talked about this. I don't know if you've ever heard it. Think about habits and tendencies and stuff like that. I think the saying is like 7. If you can do something consistently over 7 days, it becomes a habit. If you are in 7 games, just to use this analogy, 7 games being forced to run, the one time in the next game they give you a pocket even for an appropriate amount of time, not a good amount of time, an appropriate amount of time, are you going to be more prone to bail on that? I would. Let's see here. I like Craig better than Birds. And, I think everybody's in the camp of, moving forward with things. So, kind of Cody, as much as I love him, falls in the camp of not what's popular right now. So I understand that. And look, I've said this very clear. I will fight for Cody Burns every day on Twice on Sunday. But even I, as a staunch supporter of him and want him to stay here, kind of recognize, it may not be the best thing. It's not that it's not the best thing. It's not what fits the narrative, at least right now. So I've not really fought hard for Cody, other than the fact that he's my dude and I love him to death. I've met him twice, I think, in very brief passing moments, so he'll never remember me, but love the dude. So yeah, Amy, I'm glad you brought this up. What's going on with Christian Tutt? So let me see if I have the story straight. I'm entering the NFL draft. I'm sitting out of the bowl game, entering the NFL draft, signing with an agent, then suddenly not doing any of those things. I'm going to the transfer portal, and then I'm coming back to Auburn. I don't know, man. I really don't know what's going on with this kid. I don't know that he is even officially. Is that official? Can anybody confirm that? I don't know. Who would have been the ideal coaching staff had Harsin not hired who he did? Ooh, are you asking me to go like across the board there? So if Harsin's the head coach, and if I'm going off who I've wanted, this is pure what Kyle wants, very little analysis going into this. I would have kept. Do I even say it? I'm gonna choose to be diplomatic on this and choose one that I think nobody will get mad at. I would have chosen to promote T. Will to defensive coordinator. Offensively, I would have brought in whoever he would have liked to from his coaching tree at offensive coordinator. After that, I think you would have needed to keep and bring in a lot of Auburn people, which he has done. I think T. Will would have accomplished that. I think you could have kept Rodney Garner. I think potentially you could have brought in like a Travaris Robinson. Willie Anderson was talked about a lot for offensive line. So I think he basically has done what I wanted him to do in a certain roundabout way. So that's why I'm pretty satisfied with this. Not overly excited, not down about it. Just kind of like, all right, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens here. Let's see here. Bo's biggest downfall was the lack of talent / effort of the offensive line. Talent, no. I'm trying to think of a way to phrase this. Talent, no, but I do think that there was a downgrade in talent in terms of what we've had under Herb Hand, but Herb Hand is the reason we're in this situation because he couldn't coach and wrecked the offensive line for years. So I don't really have a way to phrase that right now, but yeah, I somewhat agree with you on that. Wide receiver less efficient than the O-line. Have you seen how bad the offensive line is? The only place for it to go is up. And you've got Tank Bigsby to run for you, so that he masks a lot of the deficiencies that they will have. Wide receivers, are going to be out there on an island having to prove themselves. That's it. I mean, that's really what it amounts to. And when I say, I think people are hearing the word deficiency, what I really mean is you asked me like on the scale of, I guess you did ask me who's the most efficient. And I don't really even like that phrase. I just think if you're asking me who's the most efficient versus less efficient, I think wide receivers is going to be it. Felix, how do you feel so far about Auburn football as a whole as of now? Based on the information I have now, and I don't know how long you've been listening, so if you remember, let me walk this back a little bit. I know there's people who are only going to hear part of this and get mad. My opinion is that firing Coach Malzahn this year was the wrong choice and will set Auburn back, not just this decade, but maybe another decade as well. That doesn't mean that we're not going to have some intermittent success and do that. My perfect example, and I've got two UTs, Texas and Tennessee. Both have struggled to keep coaches, to recruit on a consistent basis. They've had years of explosions and then got in trouble. Texas always says they're back, but they're not. But having said that, based off the hires that he's made, what he showed and what's important to him, and that he values having Auburn men and women here as part of his staff, and women, obviously there's no coaches there, but I'm sure there's going to be some support staff in that area. I just say that as a general statement. I do think I'm moving at a trajectory kind of like, so if this is level with the way the football program is moving forward, I've tilted this way and have kind of started to rise up slowly, very, very slowly. And I think that's the way you should do it too, honestly, personally, because it will set you up for failure if you're expecting this and it does this all of a sudden. And we'll be back in our same shoes, calling for Harsin to be fired in a couple years, and the cycle continues. And we're Texas and Tennessee. So right now, that's where I think you should be, is just above level, trending upwards. It's easy to do that after a coaching fire, right? Quarterback development should be very good with Bobo and Harsin. I agree with you on the wide receivers. Will struggle early next year. And that's the thing, too, when I make that commentary about them being the least efficient, is that they can get better. But I think that's going to be out the start there. So that's why we're going to have to lean heavy on that run game. Either way, what you see, whoever is at quarterback with the track record of Bobo and Harsin, they have the best chance for success. Oh, hey, man. Da Vinci says, I'm in here all the time. Don't comment. Appreciate that. Always love to hear that from you. Let's see. Number 43. Love that name. Do you think Derek Mason is the answer on defense? Is he an A answer? Yes. Is it a good answer? We'll find out. I don't judge him. I wonder if you're asking this because you've kind of got that notion he came from Vanderbilt. I don't know. I'm just reading probably too much into your question. But if you're judging Derek Mason on his time at Vanderbilt, don't. Judge him on his time at Stanford as a defensive coordinator. That's where I would go with when you're trying to make assessments on that. So, again, where I'm at on the Derek Mason hire, just above level, trending upwards. I think Bobo, for me, is kind of more level than it is, like just a slight tilt upwards. But I'm more favorable about the Mason hire than I am Bobo at this point. But I've started to really like the Bobo hire. Let's see. Running back cord will be solid until the second Tank tweaks an ankle. Then we may be abysmal. We need another running back in the transfer portal, I feel like, or have someone repositioned as running back currently on the team. I don't know that there's anybody to reposition at this moment. I think you'll get at least one transfer running back, but Sean Shivers is going to be a solid running back. Not obviously, it's hard to say that when you're looking at Tank, because clearly Tank's a beast. But Shivers is, I love that dude. I think he'll do just fine is he a senior now or something like that? Tut decided to come back. Could you see Big Cat doing the same? No. I don't see Big Cat coming back. Unless y'all are hearing something different. At this moment, I'm being told that's a no-go. I think that may have been a shot over the bow towards the current staff for getting rid of Coach Garner. War Eagle Joe, good to see you here. I 100% agree with that. Herb Hand was the one. I don't think it's one of 14. The biggest mistake that Coach Malzahn made Was he really a great recruiter? Not necessarily disputing, but what great recruits did he bring in? So I remember, and I distinctly remember this, being at an Auburn basketball game on the front row in the student section. I wasn't a student, but I got in. And Coach Malzahn and Coach Herb Hand came in. It was the day he got hired, and I remember seeing, I cannot remember their names for the life of me, but I remember seeing the big recruits coming in with them that were offensive linemen. And it was like, they got a bunch of like 4 stars, I think 1 or 2 5 stars. They never really amounted to much in terms of getting drafted. Braden Smith was probably the best one, but yeah. I don't have solid information on that, but I think the proof is in the pudding in terms of coaching. So, and that's what people were excited about when we hired Herb Hand, that he was going to recruit well. Philip, what's going on, man? We've already talked a little bit about T-Will. I'm kind of like trending downward on that in terms of likelihood it happens. But, hey, I'm hoping because that's what I want. I think everybody wants that. If Coach Harsin, and this is me saying this to Coach Harsin, he'll never hear this. If you want to fully solidify the unity as best you can in this day and age, the Auburn fandom, you will keep Travis Williams. You will probably earn yourself an extra year of longevity simply by doing that. Because it make people so happy. What defines a good defense? Bama just won a national championship and got torched against Florida, against Ole Miss. In this day and age, right now, I don't know what defines a good defense. Kevin Steele defines a good defense. Maybe not this year, but typically yes. Do you think Derek Mason's the best hire thus far? Trying to think through all the rest of them. I kind of, that's probably true. It's probably true. And are you happy with that? If he's the best hire so far, is that good enough to say this is a solid staff? Salt agrees with you. Yeah, everybody. Yeah, it does feel like everybody judges him on Vanderbilt and doesn't think past that. I think losing Sherwood is going to really hurt. Yes, it is, especially in the defensive backfield. That could be an area of some concern, but we'll see what happens here. If Tut's back, it could be less of a problem here. All right, we're going to say goodbye to the Twitter folks. Thank y'all for being here, and we'll hopefully be back soon with some more Auburn news and stuff. YouTube folks, most of y'all know we stay around for just a little bit longer. I'm not going to stay around too much longer because I've got things I got to do today, but it's been fun talking to you guys. So let me go through my end of the show announcements, as I always do, and just remind you of a few things. Y'all get your comments and questions in, and we'll keep moving forward with those, and we'll do some like rapid fire stuff here to round out the show. Here is our support card. If you would like to help support this podcast network and this YouTube channel, you can do that by a couple of ways. By listening to our podcast. I hope you'll do that. Here's the Apple link in the comments below. There it is on any podcast app out there if you'd like to check that out. And if you are an Apple Podcast subscriber, please take 5 minutes and go do a review for us, a star review and a written review, even if it's 1 star. We always appreciate constructive criticism, but that does help us out as well. And then also we have our Patreon campaign, which is called the E2C Network Booster Club. Putting the link in the chat as well for that right now. If you want to go check that out, it does help support the show. As little as $1 a month, and you can get yourself some perks, some gear, all that good stuff. That's fun. And I'm going to bring this up. I think this is the graphic I need for this. I did one more graphic. All kinds of graphics today. We're having a 35% off sale in our TeePublic store. You can go find that on TeePublic, and you can get our logo, all other kind of Auburn stuff that people have made on there and help support us and an independent artist as well. If you haven't, too, make sure you smash the like button if you enjoyed the content today, and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a live stream. All right, let's see. Let's catch up on some comments and stuff here. Need T-Will and a good wide receiver coach, and then it'd be a great staff. You still got to get special teams, and you still that's the last ones. Yes, special teams. That don't dismiss special teams. That wins and loses games. Ask Oregon in 2010. Do you think some of the coaches coming in might bring in some players with them, transfer portal? I think that makes sense for maybe. I guess Will Friend would be a recruit coming over. I think if we saw if we were going to see the effect of the transfer portal, we would have already seen it. That doesn't mean we're not going to see any transfers, but I thought we would see more by now. So that either tells you the coaches aren't focusing on them, or the transfers aren't excited enough to come in, at least in larger numbers. I think people are getting way too focused on the transfer portal. They help a little bit, but that it is a Band-Aid that can be easily ripped off. We need to focus on longevity. You need to focus on recruiting the younger guys and build them up in your system. That's how Alabama does it, folks. That's how they do it. And that's not a shot at Q there, or QSHO89. That's just me speculating on that. Like, I think transfers are important, but you got to get the right ones in and not make them your solution. Prediction of the basketball game tomorrow, it's going to be fun. What I want to see is Justin Powell go off against the team from his state. He was the number one recruit in their state, and they didn't even seriously go after him. It will come back to bite them. And I hope Justin Powell goes for 30. He won't, because he's just coming back from his thing, but I need to see it. Sharif Cooper. I think Sharif will probably have a less exciting game, because I think people are going to start trying to lock him down a little bit. But if he can be the facilitator that he has been, it should be a good game. It's an Auburn Arena, too. So, if Cooper stays next year, we win it all. It's a bold prediction, A.E. Robinson. It's a bold. What's the dodgeball quote? It's a bold move out, Alex, or whatever his name, whatever his commentator was. Let's see if it works out for him. Yeah, it's. I actually don't drink, and I know that makes me very boring to some of y'all. This is simply water because I'm trying to stay hydrated. I've had TMI. I've had a ton of kidney stones, so I drink water all the time now, and it helps to clear the throat a little bit. I guess Tut, the safety, could be like makeup for the secondary. Well, he pretty much. Well, he was like a hybrid safety linebacker type of situation. I think this is a solid staff. I thought I wanted splashy hires, but I'm really impressed with the resumes of coaches hired. Yeah. Like I'm happy with what I've seen thus far, Dustin. It's not been a big splash. Maybe one's coming. Do you consider Damian Craig a splash hire? Maybe. Oh, he just declared. Okay. I did. Sometimes things happen during all this. Let's see. Back it up. None of my comments posted here. Hopefully we can steal a few 2021 gems and sign day. Oh, Rel, that's the weirdest thing. So did you have problems with posting? Because I think it was Felix earlier, last stream, his weren't posting. I don't know what causes that. I think sometimes feel like we're blocking them if they're happening, but I was wondering where you have been at during the conversation here. I think they are going to get just enough out of the portal to get by this coming year and go hard after 2022 recruits. Friend been offering every tackle in the 2022 class, and he needs to at this point. He knows what he's up against and all this. Transfers are important this year. We have 11 recruits committed and a lot of depth because of development issues for Gus failing to develop. I don't necessarily agree with that statement a little, fully there, but I understand what you're trying to say. When does spring ball start? Usually they announce the spring game, I think, like in late February, early March, and that would push it's usually like close to Easter weekend. They try to do it, I think, the weekend after or before Easter weekend because they know people won't come, obviously, during that. And they usually try to schedule it when there's a softball and a baseball game. But with COVID-19, who knows at this point? I really don't know what's going to happen with sports. Does Harsin realize the utter importance of the Iron Bowl at home and LSU at Baton Rouge? I think Coach Harsin realizes the utter importance of every game. Every game. I'm out. I have a headache. Not related to the stream. Have a good day. Isaac, appreciate you being here, buddy. I really do. Thanks I hope your headache gets better. App problems, you never know, man. They're Gus to Tennessee. Is that like legit, Noah? Like, is that legit thing? It'd be funny. It would be funny. I don't know. Let's see. Also, big shout out to the memory and legacy of Kevin Green. Yeah, it was sad. I think we talked about that when that first happened on a live stream, but that was very sad. All right, guys, I think that's it for today. Hopefully, the Friday last weekend here will, have some more new. Last weekday before the weekend, we'll have some information more to talk about. We'll have a basketball game to talk about tomorrow. Hopefully, I will be able to go live stream before that, I think. Just be paying attention. Have the subscribe button hit along with the notification bell. Smash the like button on the way out if you enjoyed this. And I appreciate each and every one of you. Y'all rock. Y'all have grown this channel much more than I ever could. It's all thanks to you. So thank y'all so much, and War Eagle.